Have you ever wondered what it would take to build something so big it could literally slow down the rotation of the Earth? Well, it's not science fiction. It's the Three Gorges Dam, a true engineering marvel and an absolutely monumental testament to modern ambition. Just look at this thing. It stretches nearly 1.5 miles across China's legendary Yangtze River, making it the largest dam of its kind ever built by humans. This was a project on a totally different scale, completed in the 21st century to try and tame one of the world's most powerful rivers. And what does all that concrete and steel get you? How about a mind-blowing 22,500 megawatts of power? To give you some perspective, that makes it the largest power station on the entire planet by installed capacity. It's a real titan of energy. So, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at how this megastructure was even built, the incredible power it generates, and maybe most importantly, the really fierce and controversial debate about its true cost. But first, to really get the dam, you have to get the river. Our story has to start with the Yangtze, a river that's both a lifeline and, well, a terrifying force of nature. For centuries, the Yangtze has been the cradle of Chinese civilization, but it has this really dark side. Its history is just riddled with devastating floods. We're talking catastrophic events happening about once every decade, wiping out entire villages and costing millions of lives. So you can see why this constant threat was the main driver for the whole project. So with that in mind, the Chinese government set out 3 huge goals. Number 1, finally get a handle on the river's insane flooding. Number 2, generate just a massive amount of clean hydroelectric power for the country's booming growth. And 3, turn the river into a superhighway for trade by making it much easier for ships to navigate. Okay, so let's get into the construction itself. This was an undertaking so incredibly complex, it really pushed the limits of what we thought was possible in modern engineering. The numbers here are just, well, they're hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about a structure that's over 600 feet tall and nearly 1.5 miles long. It took 28 million cubic meters of concrete and 463,000 tons of steel. The scale is just staggering. So how in the world do you build something in the middle of a river as mighty as the Yangtze? I mean, you can't just stop it. The solution was pretty brilliant, actually. They built these huge temporary barriers called cofferdams, one section at a time. This basically created a dry work area right in the riverbed so the river could keep flowing on one side while they built on the other. And this thing wasn't built overnight. It was a marathon, for sure. After getting the green light in 1992, construction kicked off 2 years later. A huge moment came in 1997 when they finally closed the river. The first turbines started spinning in 2003, but it wasn't until 2020, almost 30 years after approval, that the whole project was officially signed off on. But you see, just stopping the floods and making power was only half the battle. The Yangtze is a super busy shipping lane, and a 600-foot wall of concrete is, a pretty big problem for boats. The solutions they came up with are engineering marvels all on their own. For the big cargo ships, they basically built a giant staircase for ships. It's a 5-step lock system. A ship just sails into a chamber, the gate slams shut, and the water level is raised or lowered to match the next chamber up or down. The ship moves on, and it does this 5 times. The whole trip takes about 4 or 5 hours. But hey, if you're in a smaller vessel, there's a much faster and, frankly, more futuristic option, a ship lift. Yeah, it's literally a colossal elevator for boats. It can hoist a ship weighing up to 3,000 tons straight up 370 feet in the air, and it does the whole thing in under 40 minutes. It's the biggest one in the world, and it is wild to see. So, with the dam belt and ships moving through, let's talk about its main job, generating an absolutely unbelievable amount of electricity. When you see the numbers side by side, it becomes crystal clear. At 22.5 gigawatts, its capacity just completely dwarfs the next biggest hydroelectric dam in Brazil. And you want to compare it to the world's largest solar park, it's not even in the same ballpark. The Three Gorges Dam is truly in a league of its own. And the scale of this thing is so immense, it literally affects our planet. So the giant lake created behind the dam holds 39 trillion kilograms of water. And according to NASA scientists, shifting that much weight around was actually enough to slightly change the shape of the Earth and slow our planet's rotation by a tiny fraction of a microsecond. How crazy is that? But for all its incredible engineering, this is where the story gets really complicated. the dam's legacy is deeply controversial. We have to look at the other side of the coin, the profound costs for people and for the planet. Just to create that enormous reservoir, more than 1.2 million people were forced to leave their homes. We're talking about entire cities and hundreds of towns that were just submerged. It's one of the largest forced migrations for a single project in all of human history. And the promise that these displaced people would get a better life often just didn't happen. In fact, studies of similar resettlement projects showed that for many, many people, the move didn't lead to a better future. It led to joblessness and being stuck in a cycle of poverty. Critics also point to what they call unscientific decision-making. And this is a great example of the problem. You have two teams with completely opposite goals. The flood prevention team wanted to hold water back during floods, but the sediment team wanted to use the power of those same floods to flush out all the silt building up. You can't do both. It's a fundamental contradiction. And the consequences are still playing out today. The sheer weight of the reservoir has increased the risk of landslides and even earthquakes. The dam traps all this vital sediment that used to fertilize farmland downstream. Pollution is getting worse in the reservoir because the water is so slow-moving. And of course, countless priceless cultural and archaeological sites are now lost forever under all that water. This assessment from critics really sums up the other side of the argument. They don't see the dam as a triumph at all. They see it as a political project pushed through by an unaccountable government that completely ignored scientific warnings and human rights. It's a totally different story from the official one. So that leaves us with this incredibly complex legacy, right? On one hand, it's a showcase of breathtaking human skill that provides massive amounts of clean power and protects millions from floods. But on the other, it's a project that uprooted over 1 million people, wreaked havoc on the environment, and was born from controversy. So which is it? Is it an engineering triumph, a human tragedy, or is it possible that it's somehow both, all at the same time? That's the question that still hangs over the Three Gorges Dam.